It's my great pleasure to introduce Rico Gatson. Rico is a painter and sculptor. He also draws and makes video. His work explores social commentary through formal abstraction. He's had solo exhibitions at Exit Art here in New York, at Pierogi 2000 in Brooklyn, at the Cheekwood Museum of Art in Nashville, the Serge Ziegler Gallery in Zurich, and he's represented by Ronald Feldman here in New York and Samson Projects in Boston. Samson Projects?
Samson Projects, yes.
Yeah.
Not quite represented, but I am going to do a show there.
He's going to have a solo show soon at Samson in Boston. His group exhibitions, he's been included in group exhibitions at the Essel Museum in Vienna, the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Denver Art Museum, G Module in Paris, Momenta Art in Brooklyn, PS1 in Long Island City, the Santa Monica Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum in Altria in New York. That was a while back, huh? Yeah.
2004.
And the MIT List Visual Arts Center in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Also at the Jewish Museum in New York and the Prospect One New Orleans Biennial. He received the Louis Comfort Tiffany Biennial Award for Visual Arts, the Prize Pieces Video Award from the National Black Programming Consortium in Columbus.
You went way back on that one.
Yeah. The Oil Bar Limited Award for Excellence in Sculpture from Yale, way back. And the Pew Charitable Trust Graduate Fellowship. And his work is in the collections of the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Smithsonian Museum of American Art, and many others. He received an MFA from Yale, a BA from Bethel College, and he teaches at NYU, and as of this semester, I'm very pleased to say, here in MFA Fine Arts at SVA. Please join me in welcoming Rico Gatson.
Hi. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share my work with you this evening. And I hear that this is a class, so those of you who are required to be here, I hope to put on a decent show for you and make it well worth your time. And I won't talk like this the entire time, I promise. Or maybe I will. It's being recorded, so. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And I'm going to share with you work from the past 15 years. We will start at slide number 1 and work our way down. I will try not to, I'm usually like around an hour. Maybe it'll be under an hour, we'll see. So I'll start and we'll stop wherever we stop, okay? So, but like as Mark mentioned, the work is mixed media. I studied sculpture at Yale and moved to New York in 1991 and have lived here and exhibited here for many years, as well as in other parts of the world. And I studied sculpture, but I really feel the need to sort of bounce around. So we'll see some of that stuff. I include first this image, this, what's the word? This excerpted quote by Erica Musakwa, which I like and am using to introduce again what I do. So you can read it. I'm pretty sure you can all read. I just want to apologize quickly because I'm just getting over a really bad cold, so I'm a little tired. In fact, my entire house is sick. My wife is laid up now with a bad cold, thanks to me. But that said, so I include this list of things, terms that I like to, terms that I think express sort of what I'm thinking about, like as I, make work. And I think this is pretty accurate. So identity, history, spirituality, politics, pattern, pop, I like in there. beauty, magic, mystery. So hopefully this gives you a little context for the work as I get into the work. Did I mention I'm going to show you video, sculpture, painting, drawing, and maybe beyond? I don't quite know what the beyond is going to be. All right, so we start in 2001. Can you guys hear me if it feels a little awkward to lean over. Can you hear me if I try to project? Yeah? Okay, good. So we started in 2001. 2001, around 9/11, and on the occasion of my second solo show at Ronald Feldman Fine Art, I did a series of videos, 5 videos, and they were all sort of like thinking about fear, but I just want to backtrack a little. Prior, I was working, making videos where I was like the primary character, dressed in blackface and or clown makeup, and it was all having to do again with identity and history and so on. But then in 2001, I started this series of videos because I got a computer. This is a Mac G4, and which is at the time I thought was like all the computer that I'd ever need. It was like 20 gig hard drive, and like 12 megabytes of RAM. No, I'm joking. It was maybe a little bit more, but I thought, wow, that's I'll have this computer forever. So anyway, I started making these videos where I was like taking footage from Hollywood films and sort of reworking the footage to serve my purposes. And so I have 3 films. There were 5 films in the original show. There was no title for the show, but the 5 films played on the program, and they rotated so that in the 2 spaces at the gallery, only like one film played per space at a time. So hopefully that makes sense. So I have excerpts of the 3 of the 5, and I'll just throw their names out. The first is Jungle Jungle, the second is Gunplay, and the third is Departure. So, and the sources for the films were King Kong, Jungle Jungle, Foxy Brown, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for Gunplay, and Alien, the original, for Departure. All right, and if you remember, I suspect that most of you were alive at the time, and maybe some of you living in New York. There's a real heightened sense of, like, fear and, dare I say, terror, concern. So I was thinking about that. Even though the series of videos started prior, it sort of, I think, played to my advantage, and so on. So I'm just going to go ahead and play like a 30-second excerpt, about a 30-second to a minute excerpt from 3 of the videos. So we'll sit back and watch.
Danger. The emergency destruct system is now activated. The ship will detonate in T-minus 10 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 5 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 3 minutes. The option to override automatic detonation expires in T-minus 1 minute.
Cool. So, oh, really? Thank you. No, I'm joking. So I just want to add that obviously I was working with that very basic mirroring filter in Final Cut, or I guess iMovie has it as well. So was interested in, like, you know, how I kind of stumbled upon it. You know, I was sort of like messing around, you know, in the program, trying to learn it, you know, without taking a course or tutorial, without using the tutorial. And you know, it's not lost on me, like, how, like, basic that filter is, and, you know, but I was really, like, delighted, like, how it really changed, like, the nature of, like, the scene, like, just visually, you know. So yeah, that was important, that was powerful. But also I want to add that in each of the scene, well, in Jungle Jungle and Departure, I was very, I was not interested in sort of including, like, the monster, if you will. So, like, obviously in King Kong, there's King Kong, and Alien, there was the alien. So, fast forward. So that was 2001. In 2003, I had the opportunity to do a show at the New Museum, curated by Dan Cameron, titled Living Inside the Grid. And at that point, so, you know, it's 2 years later, and I'm like, you know, thinking that, like, the utilization of that filter was, like, a little too simple, even though it, you know, had obviously really had a great impact on the clip. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to make a new piece, which is this piece. It's titled Evidence of All Things. And a lot of times the work that or, you know, like, a show, well, I guess I would say both work and shows, like, are sort of inspired by specific things, like texts, specific texts that I'm thinking about. And in the case of this piece, Evidence of All Things, was inspired by the book Evidence of Things Unseen, you know, by James Baldwin. It was about the murders in 1980 in Atlanta of black children. I guess it was a serial killer, Wayne Williams. And so, but long story short, so I decided to make this video, which was, like, a little bit more expansive and longer. The earlier videos were, like, all under, like, 5 minutes. Jungle Jungle, for instance, was about 2.5 minutes. In this case, Evidence of All Things was, like, what is it, 6 minutes? And so now I'm taking sources from a number of different films. including Cotton Comes to Harlem, 1970, The Exorcist, 1973, Bullet, 1968, and The French Connection, 1971. And there's an audio track that accompanies the film, which is the medicinal chant, and it's by the Tuareg people of the North Saharan Desert, or in North Africa. And apparently the chant is a cure-all chant for anything from the common cold, which I have, so this might help me, and exorcising demons. All right, so what I decided to do is project it in the corner. It's a 2-channel piece with the image mirrored, so in a black room. This is a little schematic, so it doesn't represent the actual installation, but I'm gonna play you a shortened clip of the piece so you can get a sense of it. I can see that I'm like 14 minutes into this, and at the rate I'm going, we're never going to get through this. All right, so I will speed up. So in 2004, on the occasion of my 3rd solo show at Ronald Feldman Fine Art, I again had an opportunity to occupy both spaces in this large gallery. If you guys don't know where Ronald Feldman Fine Art is or know about it, it's a very important gallery, my words, downtown. In Soho on Mercer, 31 Mercer Street. Check them out. Anyway, so I did a show called History Lessons, and there's a video that accompanied it, and so I'm going to show you just a few moments of like that video. Again, I was like sort of thinking about this longer format approach to making videos. You know, taking other source material, reworking it, and spitting it back out. So in the case of this piece, I'm saying that it was more like episodic, so it was like a bunch of clips, scenes that were strung together to comprise the whole. So some of the source material was like The Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffith, and then there was some like sort of stock footage from like the 1930s of these sort of stereotypical like characters in black film, in film, so exaggerated, with exaggerated features. And then there was a Bob Dylan song that is also featured, titled Only a Pawn in Their Games. And there's a longer story. I'm not going to get into that because it would take forever to, you know, explain it. So I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to quickly get into some of this other stuff. Oh, it culminates. This is just, again, excerpted clips from the larger piece, about 30 seconds per clip. It culminates with some just strung together images of like the Watts riot. Okay. All right, so like just to backtrack a little bit, so the song is about the murder of civil rights leader Medgar Evers, performed by Bob Dylan. Yeah, what else do I want to say about that? That's it. Okay. All right, African Fractals. So that was 2004. 2006, I had the opportunity to do another show at Ronald Feldman Fine Art, and at this point I was like, okay, like the videos like going to the back, and like some of the stuff that I was doing like with painting is coming to the fore, if you will. So I did a show that was sort of inspired by this text, African Fractals, with the same title, by Ron Igles. I think he's a professor out at Rutgers. So like I was really, so like he's obviously thinking about computing and indigenous design, and so I just took that as a starting point, a jumping off spot to kind of like sort of produce the show. All right. The correlations may be like deeper, but I'm not going to get into it at this point. All right. So here's this, just a few clips from the installation, and this gives you a sense of like the actual space as well. So in the background, there's this piece, which I consider a piece. 4 panels titled, they're untitled, Swastika number 1, moving from left to right. Untitled Swastika number 2, untitled Cross Star, bottom corner left, and untitled Othala Room, bottom right. All right. So am attempting to sort of like integrate like symbols into the painting. All right. So so this is another installation shot. Piece in the foreground is titled Whipping Post, large. Another view. This piece titled Southern Comfort, and which takes its cues from the Confederate flag. It's 4x6, I think. And you can probably see, I used to have an image, a detail. I'm working with, so I say it's a Confederate flag because underneath like the stripes are stars, and it makes up the sort of like, it's basically the layout of the Confederate flag underneath. So it's kind of hidden. And I was working at that time, like putting down these dots that, some people referred to as a sort of braille, and or like kind of this coded thing, and I was thinking about like maybe something more in like that was more kind of tribal, but I like the notion that like this coded thing could be a part of it. This is a video sculpture titled Ali Boumbaye, and it's a clip from a film, 1 minute clip from a film that followed Ali for like 10 years. A really famous film. I can't remember the director, but it was a carnival scene, and so it was repeated on these 8 monitors. It was titled Ali Boumbaye, and then it was like, in parentheses, it was double cross. And the double cross metaphor came up a couple times in a couple works. Actually, there was a print that I had in the show that was a double cross. It was like a cross burning, and then I flipped it so that and sort of abstracted it. I don't have an image of that piece. So, and then in the backspace, I had these other works, and I'll just go through each quickly. This piece was titled Auction Block. The lights are in the work at this point, but I, spent a few years making works that had lights. And light is kind of a metaphor, which I'll maybe get into a little bit as we get a little further into this. This is a whipping post medium. This piece is titled Nape of the Neck, Small of the Back, and it's now in the collection at the Studio Museum in Harlem. And a little warning, I have some images just to show you like the source image, or the image that inspired the work. So if you're squeamish, look away. It's pretty intense. Then this piece is titled Iraqi Landscape. And obviously it's a roadside explosion. This piece is titled Lower Ninth Mausoleum. And it's now in the Cheekwood Museum. It's a permanent collection in Nashville. Yeah, clearly it's a shotgun house after like Katrina. And this piece titled Kathleen Cleaver, simply, and is inspired by this image of Kathleen Cleaver and the Black Panthers, who also come up in the work again and again. So, all right, so 2006, 2007, I started making like these works on paper. I don't know, just because I determined that I wanted to. So I started making these and started like selling these. And so I make them, I sell them. I'm happy, the collector's happy, hopefully, and so on. So this is I was like, it's pretty obvious. They're very sort of like, straightforward, and so far as what they're doing. Clearly, they're, visualizing the image or the energy of like the person, the subject, and thus very simple. So in this case, it's Nina Simone. Usually they're dead. Sometimes they're not. But there's something about the former, and transformation, to speak generally. So in this case, Cassius, and he comes up a few times, both as Cassius and Ali. But, and I was also thinking about like, sort of like making these figures sort of like superheroes. At least that was the original sort of impetus. They're 22 by 30. Thank you, Peter. That's a good question. 22 by 30, framed. This is Angela, as in Angela Davis. Thelonious, as in monk. Samo, before he was Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat. No, he was Jean-Michel Basquiat, but before he became the artist known as his birth name. Yeah. And this is Panthers #2 with Kathleen Cleaver in the 4. Yeah, power to the people. You know what I mean. A lot of these works, fortunately, they've been able to go to nice collections. In the case of some of these works, they're in the collection at the Yale University Art Museum. This is double Hughes, as in Langston Hughes. Okay. Fast forward. So that was 2007. That's an ongoing series. I keep trying to stop that series, but keep getting pulled back into it, or am still inspired to make those works. So that's a good thing. All right, so in 2008, I was invited to take part, as mentioned, in that New Orleans biennial Prospect One, and prior to that, it was curated by Dan Cameron, actually. And prior to that, I had a friend who turned me on to Give Me Shelter, the film by the Mazeless brothers, and also Sympathy for the Devil. So I eventually got around to watching the film, and in the film, at the end, I don't know if you guys know this film, but it's basically, quick description, the Mazeless brothers make a documentary following the Rolling Stones as they tour America and record the album, and then there's a free concert in that was scheduled for Golden Gate State Park that was going to culminate in this whole thing, but it was also considered Woodstock West because Woodstock had happened prior, I think it's just a few months and prior, but then they were expecting all of these people to come, and then they moved it to the Speedway, Altamont Speedway in Northern Cal, and at the end there were a couple deaths, 2-3 deaths, and one of those deaths was this 18-year-old kid, black kid, Meredith Hunter, and it was really kind of jarring to watch this murder, which was captured on film, and so I was really struck by that, the power of that, and it had resonance for me for New Orleans for some reason. So I made a piece titled Spirit Myth, Ritual and Liberation. It was originally installed in the shotgun house that was literally a loop. You come in one side, walk through, and exit. 3 videos, independent, that worked together, comprised of footage taken from the film. One is a clip, the first scene is a clip that I juxtapose with a song by Mahalia Jackson titled In the Upper Room. It's also the clip where this kid is in the audience for a few seconds. The second clip is reworked from the film Sympathy for the Devil because there was this story that he was murdered during the performance of that song. And so the clip was from the Godard film of these sort of militant guys in the junkyard. And the third clip is the actual murder, juxtaposed or set to a Sun House song, the Delta Blues guy, and the song is titled Death Letter Blues. So I'm going to play you a short clip of the piece.
The upper room with Jesus sitting at his blessed
Never have we spoken English perfectly. Never, never, never.
That is because our people consciously resisted a language that does not belong to them.
That is because our people consciously resisted a language that does not belong to them.
Never did, never will.
Never did and never will.
No matter how they try to run it down our throat, and we ain't gonna have it.
No matter how they try to run it down our throat, we ain't never gonna have it.
We ain't gonna have it.
We ain't gonna have
You
it.
must understand that as a level of resistance.
You must understand this is a level of
Anybody can
resistance.
speak that simple whitey's language.
Anybody can speak that simple whitey's language.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can.
We've not done it because we've resisted.
We have not done it because we have resisted.
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 We have to recognize who our major enemy is.
We have to recognize who our major enemy is.
Brother,
Our enemy is not our blood brother.
flesh of our flesh.
this morning morning. Yeah, I can run. They say, hurry, hurry, 'cause that gal you love is dead.
Okay, so that plays out and ends. And again, those clips were shortened. And I want to mention that this kid did pull a gun. So, but there's a little controversy as to why the gun was pulled. And the person that killed him, I should mention, was a Hell's Angel who was, they were the security for the Rolling Stones. It's all chronicled in the film, so you can get the film and watch it and inform yourselves. But I was inspired to sort of like take that and utilize it and use it as source footage to make art, So, and there's a longer story, backstory. So, but maybe you'll have questions if there's enough time. All right, so in the backspace, this is 2009. 2008 was the original presentation in New Orleans, and what you just saw in this clip is me representing it at my gallery and at Ronald Feldman 2009 in a show titled Dark Matter. Dark Matter. So cosmic. So in the front space was a video installation. In the back space was sculpture and painting. So in the foreground installation view, magic sticks. So at this point, 2009, I'm making these new sculptures, and they don't have that much color. They're pretty, black and white. So another view. And there's a story behind the magic sticks. The magic sticks were primarily inspired by discarded material laying around by the dumpster that I rescued and determined that I needed to make something, and then I decided to call them magic sticks. But there's more to that. I mean, clearly, we all know the 50 Cent song. So I was thinking, also about black masculinity. What is it? How is it? My magic stick? I'm not going to perform it for you. But I was thinking about sort of modernist sculpture and the pedestal and primitive art, and also there's a little bit of some other stuff sprinkled in there. Again, religion, African religion, maybe hoodoo, voodoo. There's the serpent. But just messing around with that stuff, just messing around with it. I'm not a practitioner per se. So, and then there was this piece also of discarded wood hanging out by the dumpster. It's titled Light Panel, number 1, 2009. And again, I'm starting to mess around with lights, but in the bottom corner of that second lower panel, there's this image, and it's Obama floating in this, glitter, sort of like being consumed, tiny. And then I made a series of these panels. They called line painting, and they were numbered. And I tend to do these small series. I don't know if it's and I can't believe I'm saying this for the camera, but I don't know if it's that I get bored or decide to move on or what, but line painting, number 1. And there was line painting number 2, line painting number 3, and then I stopped. And then this piece titled Nigeria Power, which is in a nice collection now, private collection. It's in the collection of my professor at Yale who taught African film, and was also in my mid-career survey, which I haven't gotten to yet. So it's only 39 minutes into this, so maybe we'll get there. Nigeria Power, and then this piece is titled Untitled X. And they're both about 4x4. And I'd say most of the work in the show, the sculptures and paintings, were like things that I made from reclaimed wood, stuff that was like gonna be thrown out. I don't know what significance that has. Maybe it has some significance, but I'm not quite sure what the significance is other than my desire to breathe life back into stuff that was gonna be discarded. And this is a part of a series titled Mystery Object. Mystery Object. And they're numbered. This is Mystery Object number 2. And this was the first magic stick. It was in the show. It's pretty straight. They hadn't changed at this point, but. And then in 2011, I did a little mid-career thing. I include this image because I like that the New Yorker sign in the background. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Forget about the. So the show is titled 3 Trips Around the Block, and the title is taken from these 3 walks that I took with my younger brother, who had spent 15 years, the same 15 years, in prison for attempted murder in California. So it was a little walk that we took the first time we saw each other after he was released. So seemed like it would make a good title. I'm sorry, I'm like all tired, man. This cold has been brutal. All right, so there was just things from like, you know, some new stuff, some old stuff. See the piece in the background, or on to the right, which was in the earlier show. And I'm just gonna go through these images really quickly. Exit Art was a really important institution here in New York, which is no longer here because one of the co-founders, Jeanette Ingberman, passed. Actually, the summer in August, the show opened in September, so that was a real sad time because she was really amazing, and her partner was Papo Colo. So, and this was the final of a series of solo shows that they had given artists over their 30-year run. So I was honored to be like the final show, and to take part in that legacy. So there was again painting, sculpture, video, and so on. This piece of 9 panels was just simply that, 9 painted panels. Materials are glitter, spray paint, acrylic paint, and they look abstract, but the centerpiece is top center purple and black piece has words in it, hard to see, and I don't have a detail of that, but it's titled Sam Cooke. And they're all the titles are kind of cosmic, untitled Supernova, untitled, you know, Starburst, untitled Nigeria. So we got Nigeria in the mix again. And then this piece, Double Michael, were a set of digital prints that hung out in the corner. So there were a series of these that I did. I don't have the size on that, but it's larger than 22 by 30. And then this painting was in the show, titled Soul Food 2011. It was a newer piece in the show. And then the Mystery Object, number 4. So, all right. 2013, I did a show at Feldman Gallery, another show at Feldman, the 6th and the most recent. and it was inspired by this book, this text, The Warmth of the Other Suns, which chronicles the great black migration and from the South. I guess the time period was from like 1911 to like 1971. In 1969, at the end of it, my family moved from Georgia to Southern California, and that inspired this show, the book, and that move, which is titled The Promise of Light, which again had video and sculpture and painting and so on. But this video, this is a shot of the video, The Promise of Light, and I will quickly show you a clip. One of the characters from the book also takes the journey from the South, I think it was Mississippi, to California. It follows a few people. But, so I shot some footage of lights on the street in Brooklyn, and then layered the lights after obviously mirroring or putting that filter on over these historic images. In this case, a group of slaves, and they were like other images. The total running time for this piece is 6 minutes and 21 seconds. This is a short excerpt. And that's the end of the show, folks. That wasn't the end, but hey, you know, maybe that's like, you know, divine intervention or something. Which one of you willed the end of? Yeah, sorry, it shut down. But maybe it had other images to show.
We could do some questions now. And then
Yeah, let's just do questions. Yeah, I think that I definitely feel that those videos started to inform, like, naturally the work that came after, you know? So, like, in Departure, you know, there's moments where, like, you know, you get these really sort of clear, sort of, you know, geometric patterns that occur that, you know, I used to say that, like, you know, started affecting me, you know, but I guess the best answer is that I think that, like, that's naturally how my brain works. Like, I'm just really drawn. I think that, like, I actually have, like, you know, or made a comment once that so far as like, you know, the line work that you know, or the stripes that, you know, I'm just really into stripes, you know, making stripes. And, you know, I find, like, you know, like really sort of like maximal sort of pattern to be like really soothing for some reason, you know. Plus also looking at, like, or thinking about textile, you know, indigenous textile, African to be more specific, and you know, wanting to sort of like comment on, like, you know, hard-edged abstraction, or, you know, have a relationship to that, you know, like as a quote-unquote non-painter, that seems to be the most I mean, that seems to be the way that I'm interested in, like, having a conversation with, you know, or trying to paint, if you will, because, like I said, I was trained as a sculptor, so I'm a sculptor who paints. You know, I don't like to call my paintings paintings. I like to call them painted things, which kind of makes them sculpture. But I'm just really drawn to, like, you know, I mean, I like a lot of pattern. And if this loads again, I'll show you the rest of the images really quickly. I think it's a little bit of both, you know, but I try to give hints, you know, I mean, through the title, and but ultimately, you know, I don't think it matters, you know, that, you know, the viewer arrives at that place, or, you know, knows the original source, you know, because it's ultimately just about like the art. I mean, the art has to sort of stand on its own. You know what I mean? You know, even if it's only alluding to, you know, something specific, you know. But I think that, like, you know, you'll see the film, you go like, where did he jack that thing from, you know, and be, or, you know, the source, and think that, you know, hopefully that, like, you know, is a guide, you know, or it allows the viewer to go looking for more information about the thing, you know, and then is in turn informed about this event. You know, the tragedy about that death is that there's still no resolution for the family. You know what I mean? I was just out at UC Davis, which was just north of where it happened, which is really, like, you know, sort of exciting for me, having spent so much time with that footage, which was really difficult. It was a difficult piece to make. I like to say it's not that complicated, but it was a very difficult piece to work on because of all of the obvious reasons, or all the obvious shit. But there's like stuff online where the family's been interviewed. I think there was an anniversary a few years ago, and, you know, they still don't have resolution, you know, because again, the person that murdered the kid was acquitted, and then it was just swept under the rug, and a lot of people don't know about that, know about his, or even know his name, you know. So I was inspired to do something. So I think that's what we do as artists, is to find shit and hopefully try to figure out a way to sort of, at the least, you know, make it our own, spit it back out into the world as something new. I don't list the clips, no. Yeah. I mean, it might be. This question comes up. This come up a lot, but, you know, I think that, like, artists, sorry, my throat is really dry. But I think that artists, and this is probably not going to be a good answer, but artists, like, kind of take a license, you know? And I think that that's afforded a little bit. Doesn't mean I'm not going to say this on camera, be approached by lawyering types, but I don't think it's on that scale. Yeah. So, but there's a lot of issues, obviously, connected to copyright and such. But, you know, I don't want to think about that. And that's the answer that I used to give, but the farther away I get from, like, you know, making that kind of work, the less I'm kind of trying to answer the question, you know. But I think that there are, like, you know, and plus some of the stuff, you know, there's a question, and I haven't looked, thank you, checked into it, because I just want to make the crap, but maybe some of the stuff is in the public domain and such, so. But if somebody comes after me, you know, I'll just say, you know, no one has. Please don't come after me. I don't have any money. I'm poor. Really, I'm poor. Anyway, so this is like, was a part of the show Promise of Light, and these are the paintings that were inspired by, like, the Watts riot. So anyway, the aerial photographs of, like, the fires burning in LA, in Watts in 1965. So I'll just go through this stuff real quick. And they're all titled, like, and Watts painting, and then they have a number, in this case, number 4. All right, spray paint and glitter on wood panel. And then in the backspace, there was this installation. Although the pieces in the center are all sort of standalone pieces, and magic sticks, number 15 and 16. Back in 2009, there was a lot of glitter around, and I thought, man, glitter's kind of cool. I'm gonna use it. And this neighbor was using this heavy flake black glitter, and so the show in 2009 was titled Dark Matter. So I liked the fact that it sort of referenced sky or stars, you know. But then I was like, that's too easy. So I started to mute the glitter, so to take away the shimmer, and it just became texture, you know? So a lot of references to grip tape come up, but also like, you know, like asphalt, you know, and the coarse black hair. Those weren't these are just things that people project onto it. But I like all of that stuff. I like all of the references, you know. I try to keep it as open as possible. I don't want it to be too locked in. I mean, I have my like, you know, you know. I was just telling my assistant today that because I just watched this great film. It was a documentary on the Eagles, you know, the band, the Eagles. Yeah. I think it came out in 2013. It was a really good, it's like 3 hours. And I watched it like the whole, I like documentaries anyway. It was a great documentary. It's on Netflix. You can stream it for free, or not for free, but anyway. So I was just talking about like, because she was saying that she runs a little space in Bushwick, and she was talking about how like, because we were talking about being in a band. She was like, I like being in a band. I was like, man, I don't think I don't like collaboration. I said, I'm a bit of a dictator when it comes to my work, so I don't think I could be in a band. But that said, this piece is titled, Untitled, Collective Power. All recycled panels from older works. And we just started painting. I just started painting. I was like, and it just started to become fun, you know? And so we just made this whole piece. And it's one piece. I'll never sell it. No, I take that back. If there's anyone out there who wants this piece, it's for sale. All right, so Magic Stick. And I particularly like this image, not the fisheye distortion, but looking through like the piece to the panels. The layers and/or layering is something that's really important to me. So the piece in the foreground is Untitled Throne. There's another view of that. And then there are these photos that are Untitled Family. It's a series. Untitled Family #1, and that's my grandfather and my uncle who passed the same year, just a couple months prior. Grandfather died when I was a little baby. He had a heart attack as I was playing on the ground in 1966, and then my uncle died in 2013. And this is an image of my uncle, passed in the mid-90s. My grandmother and my mom in 1955 at Six Flags in Atlanta. And they're flanked by 2 American flags and the Confederate flag above my grandmother. I think that was the first year that you could legally fly the flag. Not in Magic Mountain in California. This is in Georgia. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I didn't mention that. I was born there. That's my grandmother. And this painting that is a lot slower than this image conveys, which it says Obama. And it has little dashes of yellow. But it's slower because it's darker when you see it without the flash. And so like you come up on it and then you see the words. And then this piece is simply Untitled Sun, 2013. 4x4. And then this is the final slide that I will show you, but it's the most recent piece, and it's a sort of an outgrowth of the earlier piece, and it's Untitled 12 panels. So easy. Yeah, I was actually like talking to my students at NYU about titling the other day, and I was like, you know, I always title untitled, and then I throw a name in, because you know I want to keep it a little bit open. You understand? Untitled 12 panels. That's so easy, man. I should have worked harder to title this piece, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll go back in and actually title this thing, give this thing a title, and not keep it so, because I can do that. And the reason why I can do that, because I can do it. I'll just do it. You got to give yourself the freedom to do it. Yeah, so this piece is now currently installed at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, in a show titled "Painting is Dead!" Exclamation mark, question mark. It's a great title. So that's it. Thank you. Maybe we can edit out the part where the... I don't care, put it all out. Yes? Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to answer that is just to say that like it's all like one and the same in my head somehow. You know, it's all just related. You know, it's I mean, at the core of like, you know, in terms of what I'm interested in. So, you know, it's all just kind of. So I don't really think about, or I don't know that. I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I don't think that I struggle with like, you know, like the. You know, that things look potentially different or are. You know. One medium versus the other. You know, at some point, I think in 2006, that show for me was about like trying to, the African Fractal show was just about trying to like, you know, get beyond like, for myself personally, this isn't about, you know, because I studied sculpture strictly at Yale in the 90s, or the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I was like, I left a sculptor and, you know, and all my friends still tell me, I have a really good friend, I won't mention his name, but he keeps saying, "You're not a painter." It's an ongoing argument. Like, "You're not a painter." I'm like, "Yeah, okay," but I'm trying to like not be a painter, but I'm just trying to make things that make it feel right. You know, not to make it like all sort of like, you know, kumbaya. I mean, it is kind of trying to bring these things together, but like I'm really interested in sort of having experiences in like all of these materials, and you know that's more important to me than like, you know, and sometimes they come together. Sometimes like, especially in some of the earlier work, videos would sort of hang out with sculptures. I mean, there was the one piece, and so on. So. For me, again, it's like, you know, I try not to think about, because I'm interested, I try to sort of like, you know, pour into the work all of the things that I'm interested in, you know, and try not to sort of like, you know, not allow for, like, you know, like at some point, like people would say your work is formal, very formal. You know, and like maybe that's a strategy, I don't know, to talk about like some of the social things, you know, like, and I would kind of get a little bit annoyed by that, but then I thought, I'm just a formalist, you know what I mean? This is how I think, in the same way that I just like stripes. You know, I just like to make stripes, you know, and you know, and then it's just about a matter of trying to bring it all together in a way that sort of has meaning and purpose for me as a maker, you know what I mean? So like to title this Untitled 12 Panels and not have it all loaded, because I think it's all loaded in the piece, you know, is like, you know, that's kind of like freeing, you know, it's like freedom, you know, like play is important, like, you know, or the potential to like to actually give this a name eventually, like that's like, you know, a sort of license, a kind of freedom that I'm trying to have with the work, you know, so it's not so locked in, which isn't to say that I don't want things set, but you know, I think that, you know, hopefully whatever is in the work is sort of received because the work has been done, You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be like so specific each time. And you're seeing 15 years of like development, you know? I mean, that's compressed into like an hour and a half now. So, you know, but like, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think it's like, you know, like there's a lot of information in this piece, you know, but I must admit the fact that like, I approach this from a very intuitive standpoint, like each panel. And so the result are the 12 panels. There were actually 13, a baker's dozen, but I took out the 13th panel and I made it 12 because that felt right. So like intuition is important, you know. A little aside, like I have a friend who's actually interested in like, you know, playing with like, or he's a practitioner of like African religion, and he has all sorts of information that he's always sharing with me that I find really powerful because he like sees things very specifically. And he talked about this piece. He wrote something, he said, can I write about that piece? I posted some images on Facebook, and I can't get into the specifics right now because it would take too long, but you know, I found that like really sort of like exciting that like he's interpreting, or he interpreted it, whereas I literally made each of these panels without like thinking about it. You know, I have like these jigs, and I don't want to think about it at this point. I just like lay them out, and I got my color scheme and I paint, you know? So, I mean, that's a little boring. That's a little boring. I'm gonna go back to my studio tonight and try to figure out what it is that I'm doing here. Thank you.